Hey there, hope you're doing well. Today I'm recapping a 2024 survival horror film titled Don't Move. Stick around, things are about to get intense. The movie begins with a woman named Iris, who's mentally shattered after the recent death of her son. One morning, while her husband is still asleep, she quietly pulls a small knife from a drawer and tucks it into her pocket. She also grabs her son's toy boat before heading out. Iris drives to the forest where her son died. Parking her car, she treks up a rocky trail alone. At the top, she arrives at a memorial site, places the toy boat, and carves her son's initial alongside hers and her husband's. Then she walks toward the cliff's edge, ready to jump. Her grief has stripped life of all meaning. But just as she's about to leap, a man appears. He introduces himself as Richard. He tells her he knows what she's about to do, but he won't stop her. He only asks for a few minutes to talk. Iris refuses, but Richard insists. He begins sharing his story. He used to love cars, and during his graduation days, he owned a beautiful one. But one day, he crashed it into a wall, with his girlfriend Chloe beside him. Chloe didn't survive. Richard was bedridden for months and sunk into depression, but eventually he found a new purpose in life. Hearing this, Iris expresses sympathy. Then she shares her own tragedy. She and her family were on a hike when her husband began carving their initials into a tree. Their son wandered off to find sticks for roasting marshmallows. He went too far and fell off a cliff. She blames herself. She was right there and still couldn't save him. Richard listens silently, then tells her he's leaving and she's free to do whatever she wants. But as he walks away, something shifts in Iris. She realizes she doesn't want to die. Not like this. She rushes after him. Back at the parking lot, Richard gets into his car parked right next to hers. As Iris tries to enter her own car, she finds it oddly jammed. Suddenly, Richard steps out, holding an umbrella. She's confused. There's no rain. When she questions it, he says, it could start any time, but the umbrella isn't what it seems. It's a stun device. In an instant, Richard shocks her unconscious, ties her up, and loads her into his vehicle. When Iris regains consciousness, she realizes she's been kidnapped. Her hands and feet are bound, and Richard is driving her somewhere remote. She tries to call the police using her smartwatch, but there's no signal. Her phone isn't even nearby. Then she remembers the knife in her pocket. Quietly, she pulls it out and begins cutting through the plastic ties. Meanwhile, she distracts Richard by asking more about his late girlfriend, Chloe. But Richard sees through her. He knows she's trying to play emotional games to escape. Still, Iris manages to free one hand. She lunges at him with the knife. The car swerves and crashes into a tree. Both are injured, but the fight continues. Iris tries to strangle him with a seatbelt, but Richard lowers the seat just in time. Then he shoves her off, and they both tumble out of the car. On the ground, Iris threatens him with the knife, but Richard smirks and drops a terrifying revelation. He injected her with a special drug. In 20 minutes, her entire body will go numb. She'll be fully paralyzed, unable to move or speak, but completely aware. Panicking, Iris runs. Richard laughs and tells her it's useless. He'll find her when the timer runs out. Desperate, Iris sets a 20-minute countdown on her watch and races into the woods, determined to find help. But her body has already started to betray her. Her fingers stop working, then one of her legs begins to fail. Richard searches for her in the woods, but he can't find her. That's because she's cleverly hiding near the roots of a tree. But when ants start crawling on her face, she flinches, accidentally revealing herself. The moment Richard spots her, he rushes to grab her, but she bolts and dives into a river. Richard warns her that running is pointless. The river's current is too strong and could kill her. And he's right. The current pulls her far away. Luckily, she manages to reach the riverbank, gasping for air. She checks her watch. Only 1 minute left before her body completely shuts down. With her limbs going numb, she crawls onto land. It turns out she's reached someone's farm, but as soon as she gets there, her body gives out entirely paralyzed. The farm's owner, an older man cutting grass nearby, notices her lying motionless. He rushes to her side, clearly shocked. He asks what happened, but she can't speak. Her eyes move, her finger twitches, and he quickly realizes she's paralyzed but fully conscious. He asks if she can see him. She blinks once. He asks if she can hear him. Another blink. Then he asks if she can move, and this time she blinks twice. No. Understanding her situation, the old man gently reassures her. He says he'll bring something to carry her inside and call the police. He brings out a trolley, carefully lifts her, and wheels her into his house. But just as he gets her inside, there's a sudden knock at the door. She immediately knows. It's Richard. Panicked, she blinks rapidly, trying to warn the old man. He catches on quickly, sensing something's wrong. He hides her behind the sofa and cautiously answers the door. Sure enough, it's Richard. He pretends to be worried, claiming he had a car accident nearby. He says his wife was with him, they argued, and she ran off. According to him, she's mentally unstable and might be pretending or asking for help. The old man is confused, but tells Richard to wait outside. He's calling the police. But Richard walks inside anyway. The old man firmly tells him to leave, but Richard suddenly changes tactics. He starts crying, pretending to be a helpless husband. He even notices the trolley and starts suspecting something. Sensing the lie, the old man nearly tells him the truth until Richard's phone vibrates in his pocket. That's when everything changes. The old man asks, "You said you didn't have a phone, so what's that?" Richard drops the act, his smile fades. He demands to know where the woman is, threatening the old man if he doesn't cooperate. But the old man doesn't back down. He says he's not someone to mess with and dares Richard to try something. Then he grabs his phone and calls the police. That's when Richard snaps. He attacks, but the old man fights back. He's surprisingly strong and throws Richard around. But during the struggle, Richard grabs a knife and stabs the old man in the stomach. He collapses, dead. From behind the sofa, Iris sees everything. The man who tried to save her is now gone, and Richard has proven just how dangerous he really is. But there's a spark of hope. She notices one of her fingers beginning to move again. Richard frantically searches every corner of the house, but somehow he overlooks the one place that matters most, behind the sofa. Iris remains hidden, just inches from discovery. Just as the police were about to arrive, Richard doused the entire house in kerosene and set it on fire. What he didn't realize was that Iris was still inside, trapped and helpless. Desperate to survive, Iris tried to move her fingers, hoping for any chance to escape. Meanwhile, Richard jumped into the old man's truck, ready to flee. But just then, he noticed the window blinds inside, twitching up and down. It was a signal. He immediately knew Iris was still alive. He rushed back, moved the sofa aside, and found her hidden behind it. He lifted her up and placed her in the truck, then muttered, "If she hadn't given that signal, she would have burned alive in there. And if she had just cooperated, no one would have had to die today." With that, he sped off in the truck. While on the road, Richard received a surprising call from his daughter, Lizzie, a school student. She excitedly told him she'd scored great marks, and she and her mom had decided to take a trip to Old Cubby. Hearing that left Richard stunned. That was his destination. Iris overheard the conversation and finally pieced things together. Richard was married now. His first love, Chloe, had died, and sometime after, he had remarried and even had a daughter. Richard then spoke to his wife, who said they'd be arriving in Old Cubby by night. He tried to talk her out of it, insisting he needed time alone there, but she refused to listen. She was coming, and that was final. Furious, Richard realized his truck was running low on fuel and pulled over at a gas station. The card machine wasn't working, so he headed inside to pay. Left alone in the car, Iris regained more strength. Now able to move her palm, she managed to unbuckle her seatbelt, hoping someone would notice her. Soon, a car pulled up and a young boy stepped out. He approached her, curious, but before Iris could say anything, the boy's mother quickly pulled him away. She sensed something was off about the woman inside the truck and calls the cop. Right then, Richard returned, fueled up, and sped away before anyone could intervene. He then drove to the site of his earlier crash, determined to retrieve his old car. But when he tried to start it, the engine wouldn't turn over. Just as he was getting ready to tow it, a police officer suddenly pulled up, the same one alerted by the woman at the gas station earlier. The moment the officer checked the plates, they matched the number she had reported. When the officer asked for his name, Richard calmly lied and said, "Andrew." He even showed a fake ID to prove it. That's when we learn Richard isn't his real name. Andrew is. The officer then asked who the woman in his car was. Calmly, Andrew replied that she was his wife, drunk and out of control. He claimed the crash happened during a fight and that a man named Bill had lent him the truck to tow his car. But the story seemed fishy. Meanwhile, Iris had finally regained enough strength to roll down the window and whispered, "Help me." The officer, now alert, leaned in to check and finds a syringe he was planning to use to paralyze her again. But before he could reach for his gun, Andrew struck him on the head, cracking his skull, killing him instantly. He then stuffed the body into the car and blew it up, destroying all evidence. Taking Bill's truck once again, Andrew fled the scene, but Iris, now fully conscious, had secretly stolen the syringe. While driving, Iris quietly said, "Things aren't going your way anymore, are they?" He snapped back, "Keep your mouth shut." Iris begins provoking him. She tells him he only kidnaps women like her to prove he's strong, just because he was bedridden for 2 months. Hearing this, Andrew loses his temper. He snaps back, saying he was strong even before all that. He tells her he's changed the plan. Now he'll take her out into the ocean and push her off the boat to drown. Originally, he just wanted to take her to his cabin and have fun, but now his family's arriving, so she has no place there anymore. Then he takes her to the edge of the ocean. At the right moment, Iris jabs a syringe into his leg, but she can't eject it. Her thumb isn't working properly. Furious, Andrew yanks the syringe from her hand and throws it away. Dragging her to the boat, he forces her on board and sails to the middle of the ocean. That's when Iris spots a knife on his belt, and she knows she has to get it. She breaks down in tears, pretending to be helpless, and pleads with him to do just one last thing: reach into her pocket and take out her son's toy. Richard falls for the act. As he leans in, she grabs the knife and stabs him in the neck. Bleeding, he reaches for his gun to shoot her, but before he can fire, Iris shakes the boat hard, causing him to fall into the water. As he tries to climb back up, Iris grabs the gun and fires. One of the bullets hits him, and he falls back into the water. He struggles, swimming in pain, while Iris thinks it's finally over. But then she realizes she shot the boat too. Water starts rushing in. Her body is still numb from the drug, so she can't move. She sinks under the water. Just as she's about to drown, the drug starts wearing off. She regains control of her body and swims up for air. She looks around and sees Richard, badly wounded, lying on a distant shore. She walks up to him. He's barely alive. She thanks him and walks away, leaving him to die. And with that, the movie comes to an end. So that was the story of a woman named Iris, depressed and blaming herself for her son's death. On the day she decided to end her life, she crossed paths with Richard, a twisted killer. He didn't want her to die. Not yet. He wanted her alive to satisfy his own sick desires. He kidnapped her, believing she looked just like his dead girlfriend, Chloe. But Iris was no ordinary victim. She was strong, and because of her courage, she survived. What did you think of the story? Let us know in the comments.